This is a film study video that I didn't really intend on producing this week after the Ravens 41-40 loss to the Bills on Sunday night. Going to focus on what Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, and DeAndre Hopkins were able to get accomplished against Christian Benford. Christian Benford's a quality NFL corner, played really well against the run. In fact, I think he had 2 nice tackles in Sunday's win over the Ravens, but someone that I wasn't going to focus on until I heard his comments on Wednesday afternoon about DeAndre Hopkins. Basically, a reporter, I would presume, a Bills reporter in the locker room asked him what he thought of the catch, the 30-yard touchdown that Hopkins put up that I'll show you here in a moment. And he said, tell him to do it again if we play him again. He had an opportunity to behave with class, and talking about a legend who has 84 touchdowns in DeAndre Hopkins, I thought huge missed opportunity to join a club of professionals who are really good at their craft and respect each other. And I've long since held the thought or the belief that Benford was overrated as a coverage corner, oftentimes protected by scheme. And so after hearing those comments, I thought, you know what, we're going to go ahead and roll this video because I thought all 3 of the Ravens wide receivers had wins over him in one game. So when he says tell him to do it again, well, all 3 guys, Christian, beat you in man coverage. Hopkins, Bateman, and Flowers could have been a bigger aspect, if you ask me, of the game plan, but Derrick Henry was having such success on the ground. You really can't blame Todd Monken for relying or perhaps over-reliance on the run game. So here are 3 cases where Christian Benford, you had an opportunity to stop these guys from doing it again and got exposed in man coverage. This first one will be Hopkins' touchdown catch. I think this one puts the Ravens up 34-19. It's a 30-yard touchdown catch, maybe 29. You can see Lamar is initially focusing his eyes in towards the middle of the field, illustrated by those 2 orange lines, but then I think he knows where he's going. There's a hand fight down here at the bottom of the screen between Hopkins and Benford, and the hand fight really occurs throughout the entirety of this route, from the line of scrimmage all the way down to the point where Hopkins is able to win and extend his hand out, his right hand out, while his left hand is fighting off Benford, who held at least 3 other times in this game. I don't know if he was cited for it by Bills fans or Bills content creators, but the point is, here you have a situation where a guy who, to use an NBA comparison, a shooting guard tried to body up or deal with a power forward with physicality and found out who he is. Very good football player, but not a lockdown corner, in my opinion, regardless of what advanced metrics say from 2024 or from this game. End zone angle. Look, the Bills are bringing a pretty cool stunt here. The defensive tackle, my apologies for that, is stunting to the inside, and that's clearing the way for Bernard to kind of loop over the top. Ravens are very fortunate that this ball comes out quickly because this defensive end on this track is really a free rusher. Nobody picks him up. So here's Flowers. I'll talk about him in a moment, but I'm discussing this defensive end off the right side. I think it's Espinosa. Chip him with Andrews, and again, Lamar's looking in the middle of the field, and because Ronnie Stanley's dealing with this defensive tackle, there's no one on Espinosa. So we're very fortunate that they weren't able to get pressure, primarily because the ball was out quick. Here's a clean win for Zay Flowers down here against Taron Johnson, who I actually think is very underrated from a coverage standpoint as a nickel DB. He doesn't play traditional safety, nor does he play outside corner, but he's someone that I've always heard refer to other players, especially legends like DeAndre Hopkins, with a little bit more class and respect than Christian Benford did in the locker room on Wednesday. Beautiful catch. We all know. We saw it live. It's a laser of a throw by Lamar. Put us up, like I said, I think 34-19. I would have liked to have seen Hopkins get more targets. You don't get a sense from the end zone angle at all, the hand fighting that these guys were doing with each other. But the all-22 angle, gave you a pretty good idea of how those guys were doing it. Look, the thing I want to point out here from a Benford perspective, this is one-on-one. There was no help. No help for him. There's no picks for Hopkins. There's no shields by another receiver. You're just beat. Bateman, not going to be a catch here, but this is an obvious pass interference if you ask me. The line of scrimmage is the -33, that blue line that I just shook there. Bateman is spot shadowed on the bottom side of the screen, again, lined up against Benford. We've got Bateman here at the 45-yard line, the -45. And with the line of scrimmage, like I said, being at the negative 33. By my math, I've got 12 yards, and he's still got his hands on Bateman. In fact, it's on his collar. The area that would, if he was to tackle him in that way, right, they would call it a horse collar tackle. Lamar is getting rid of the football to Bateman, who's trying to take this route. He's trying to bend it here a little bit and then bring it back vertically. It's a route that he scored on, I believe, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2024. And actually, the design of this route, or the way that it's run, actually allows Benford to hold longer, because you can see the ball's in the air. We're at the plus 45-yard line. Let me move that spot shadow out of the way. From the negative 45, which is 12 yards from the line of scrimmage, to midfield, 17 yards of line of scrimmage, still has his hands on him. Finally takes his hands off his collar, and we're at 21, 22 yards depth. That's a hold that should have been called, and it was not. I have no idea why it was not. It seems quite obvious to me. The Bills were fortunate to get away with it. Benford was fortunate to get away with it. Imagine you gave up a 30-yard touchdown to Hopkins and the reception to Zay Flowers that I'm going to show you in a moment, and got called for a DPI there. And finally, we've got Benford once again, man. This one against Flowers at the bottom side of the screen. And he tries the same technique. He basically tries the same thing, using his hand to kind of grab Zay Flowers. There's a couple of differences. Flowers is bringing the route across the field, so it doesn't allow him, Benford, to hold like he just did for Bateman. He can't do that because Flowers is quick, number one, so he gets considerable separation on this in-breaking route across the middle of the field. Not protected by scheme here because it's not a zone or a man inside of zone. And the reality is, if Lamar had thrown this ball further like into this box, Zay Flowers is probably still running. He's got him absolutely beat here, and when you get the end zone angle, you get an idea. It's actually worse than I just kind of portrayed there with that line. If the ball was out in front of Zay a little bit better, then it would have been probably an opportunity for a touchdown. I said this in the reaction video in the Zay Flowers film study that I did earlier in the week. When this happened live, I was like, don't let these guys, the Bills, get another lucky turnover near midfield with a fumble, like the Andrews fumble in the playoffs last season. Really cool way that the Bills are handling this in terms of a pass coverage standpoint. It looks like 24 is on 89 to start, and I would say that Taron Johnson and Milano are both responsible for the running back, depending on which side he releases. In addition to that, the Mike linebacker, I think, is Bernard, is either responsible for the tight end and or Henry. Just watch the way they react to this. Hopefully I'll be able to explain this in a way that makes sense. Milano points when the tight end crosses. It's a little bit of a play fake by Lamar to Derrick Henry. So what happens is, since Milano is recognizing the tight end going away, Milano, is going to take over Henry, releasing out into the right flats. I know this video is not about this, but I just think it's a really nice job of the Bills defense communicating this out. In addition to this, since the tight end is crossing, and Taron Johnson would not be responsible for Derrick Henry because he's not flashing to his side of the field, he's basically going to take over this tight end / fullback, the rookie whose name escapes me for the moment. In addition, here is Flowers, the matchup we're talking about. I'm fine with a hold here, right? That's what all DBs do in this area of the field. The Flowers play that I just showed you, the Bateman play that I just showed you a moment ago, that's from, you could call it at 12 yards. You could call it at 15. You could call it at 17. You damn sure should be calling it at 21. They can't call it here because Benford got left in the dust. Look at the area of separation that there is. Like I said, this ball, if it's thrown out here towards the top of the numbers, gives Zay Flowers a huge opportunity to run away from Christian Benford, run away from him a second time, really, and perhaps score a touchdown. The reason why it bothers me so much is when you have time to reflect and move away from the field into the locker room, either after the game or later on in the week, which I'm under the impression that interview occurred on Wednesday, but I could be wrong. I had these plays saved up after the game, and thought about commenting on them, but just got really busy, first of all, over the course of the week with so many film study videos, until Wednesday when I saw his reaction to that question, which I think illustrates a lack of discipline and lack of understanding about the opportunity that you had to praise or commend a legend like Hopkins, who's got 84 career touchdowns, like I said, almost 1,000 catches, and your response, I think, is incredibly lacking in awareness and recognizing that opportunity. The greats in sports and in life and anything, they recognize each other and they operate in a different sense to each other. And in my opinion, Christian Benford, first of all, he's not a great corner, but second of all, totally missed the opportunity to give credit to Deandre Hopkins the way that people with an abundance of class do. If you enjoyed this film study video and please let me know in the comment section, number one. Number two, if you think other Ravens fans or Bills fans, in fact, might enjoy my thoughts on the matter and how the Ravens were able to get 3 clean wins against him. Unfortunately, 2 catches because for some reason the refs missed the DPI on the play against Bateman, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.